I grew up watching the original Batman the Animated Series, which I plan to review one day on this channel, but does the new Batman Caped Crusader first season match the animation and expert storytelling as the original? Let's get started on my review of the first season of Batman Caped Crusader. Let's go.
I think it's time we blow this thing. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
What's going on, all my Flicksers? This is Jacey from Jacey Flicks, and I just finished watching the first season of Batman Caped Crusader. Now, before I do get started with my review, please note this will be a spoiler-free review, just in case you haven't seen the first season yet, currently showing on Amazon Prime. Also, please make sure that you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on more cartoons that I'm reviewing just like this. So, the new iteration of Batman Caped Crusader stars Hamish Linklater as Bruce Wayne and Batman, Jason Watkins as Alfred Pennyworth, Eric Morgan Stewart as James Gordon, Crystal Joy Brown as Barbara Gordon, Diedrich Bader as Harvey Dent, Jamie Chung as Dr. Harleen Quinzel, aka Harley Quinn, John DiMaggio as Bullock, and more. In the grim Gotham City, affluent philanthropist Bruce Wayne goes beyond his humane capabilities and transforms into the enigmatic figure Batman. His crusade for justice brings in unexpected allies, but his actions also lead to perilous consequences. Trying to follow up, not directly by the way, to an original iconic show that won multiple Emmys during its run in the 1990s, was highly praised by not only critics but also by fans of the comics, is almost impossible to do. I mean, sure, since the 90s, we've had different iterations of Batman and various interpretations of Bruce Wayne through Warner Brothers, trying to reboot the character or the stories over and over again every so often. But very few since then have really stood the test of time like the original, which is Batman the Animated Series. However, Batman Caped Crusader doesn't aim to do so, but instead it aims to add as almost an extension of the original series with some bold new takes of certain characters. You get the same aesthetic, the same era of 1940s, some of the same villains with a few new twists, and most of the same elements. I mean, make no mistake about it, this show, just like the original animated series, is very dark in tone as well. And that should be no shocker, seeing as the executive producers include Bruce Timm himself, who created the original animated series, Matt Reeves, who is currently directing the new Batman film and also directed the one previously a few years ago with Robert Pattinson, and J.J. Abrams. Although most of the twists and changes mostly have to do with the villains and some of the supporting characters, the stories are still compelling nonetheless, taking on some new backstories to some of our favorite villains, including the Penguin, Harley Quinn, Clayface just a bit, and a few others. One of the most notable small little changes we have, and I don't think it's much of a spoiler to you guys, is of Clayface. As you may all know, he was a former actor, and here he has a backstory that resembles a lot of former star Boris Karloff, who is mostly known for portraying Frankenstein's monster in Universal Studios' Frankenstein back in the day. I mean, the similarities are there, and there are also some hints throughout the episode that are cool little Easter eggs for fans of classic horror just like I am. One of my most favorite aspects of the original animated series that I used to love was the involvement of the mob and how we saw the inner workings of their plans. Obviously, we would then see Batman intervene and catch the bad guys at the end, or for the most part. And we get that here again. We get a dark and gritty nature of the city overtaking any kind of hope that the civilians may have in living there, as well as some of the cops of the precinct, this should be no shocker, at Gotham doing dirt while Batman works to correct many of their mistakes. This show takes a similar approach from the original comics, and not only the look of Batman, taking inspiration from the first issue of Detective Comics of Batman, but also the early start of Batman in his first couple of years. It also shows more of an origin story on how the masked vigilante, in inspires other masked villains to take the streets of Gotham or even take the streets into their own hands. Now, let's talk about the voices behind Batman Caped Crusader. It's difficult to try and fill the shoes of such a unique and memorable voice of the legendary Kevin Conroy as Batman. But Hamish Linklater is up for the task and makes the voice his own. Although there are some small similarities of him speaking in a lower octave when he is Batman as opposed to Bruce Wayne, which is kind of like what Kevin Conroy would do, it still sounds different enough for the show, and it really works for this iteration. Jason Watkins as Alfred Pennyworth fills in quite nicely, aiding Batman through his various missions, while Eric Morgan Stewart as James Gordon offers a more heavier tone compared to Bob Hastings' stern tone of Gordon from the original series. Diedrich Bader offers a conniving and kind of battle of good and evil with Two-Face, aka Harvey Dent, as Jamie Chung keeps a straight tone as Harley Quinn and not try to outdo any of the past iterations of Harley Quinn, just like the iconic Arlene Sorkin. It was also nice to hear Jason Marsden's voice, who is a reporter, which, by the way, if you do not know who Jason Marsden is, he's responsible for voicing some of my favorite characters from the 1990s, like Max from the Goofy Movie, Thackeray Binks from Hocus Pocus, and starring in the earlier episodes of Boy Meets World. When it comes to the animation, the 1940s is such a beautiful aesthetic and one that leaves you wanting more after every episode ends. As I was watching it, a thought also came to my mind and thinking, wouldn't it be nice to have like an Elseworlds story of Batman take place in 1940s on film? But I digress. Although this show does not linger in too many scenes and episodes that are just in the dark with a black backdrop and vivid colors to help with the animation pieces and stand out, Batman Caped Crusader uses more technology to move characters and settings along, making a just due for the story as we see Batman move along on his journey of learning who he can and cannot trust. Now, this is though where I get to some of my negatives. The series does work to sort of act as an inspiration from the original Batman the Animated Series, and in that respect, you can see how it kind of falls a bit short of living in that iconic show's shadow. Although it does have a fresh take on most of the villains and side characters with origin stories, it does kind of make you miss some of the original takes from the animated series from the 1990s. Although the voice acting isn't as captivating as the voices from the original series, and I do think that the dramatic backstories of the villains are not as memorable, this series still holds up. The best way to watch this, though, is to try and not compare it to the original Batman the Animated Series. Just go in with an open mind and with kind of seeing a fresh new take, try to start with a blank slate. I am also curious to see where this story goes, especially from the season finale and giving us a taste of another villain of Batman's rogues gallery. With all that being said, you guys, I'm going to give Batman Caped Crusader 3.5 flames out of 5 and a pretty fire show rating.
It's nice.
Although Batman Caped Crusader doesn't change too much of what made Batman the Animated Series such an outstanding and iconic show, instead it tweaks certain backstories, gives us a fresh new take with a select full of villains and characters to make it still an interesting watch all around. Whether it's seeing the Penguin as a woman, Barbara as a lawyer, or even seeing some of Harvey's earlier days as a district attorney before he turns to the dark side, this series kept my attention throughout and does not tarnish the reputation or history of Batman. It does fall short though from being a really solid watch. However, I do feel like as the show goes on, especially if they renew it for a second season, that it can potentially get better and is still a pretty good start to an uphill climb of what could eventually get better later and prove to be a standout cartoon on Amazon Prime. Now, as far as some of the standout episodes of this season that were my favorite and some of my recommendations, I would definitely say episode 2, titled And Be a Villain, episode 4, which is The Night of the Hunters, episode 5, which is The Stress of Her Regard, and episode 10 in the finale of A Savage Night. Also, it was nice to see some subtle nods to various characters from the Batman universe throughout. Like in episode 8 titled Nocturne, where I actually caught onto most of the Easter eggs in it as I noticed some of the names of the kids throughout that episode. Alright guys, so have you seen the first season of Batman Caped Crusader yet? If you have, let me know what you thought of it overall. Which episode was your favorite? And also, let me know in the comments below what you guys want me to review next. Last thing before I do go, you guys, please make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date. My name's Jacey from Jacey Flicks, and until next time, I'm out.